Hey there, and thank you so much for being with us on this Thursday, August 14th. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz. Welcome to Weather Out West. This is an hour-long show where we showcase what's happening weather-wise across the western United States. And you'll find forecasts from all of our meteorologists in the Pacific Northwest to the Mountain West, California, and Arizona. But today, we're going to start in Denver, Colorado, where the heat wave continues, but there are signs of a pattern change. Kathy Sabin has the forecast from Denver.
Hello from Denver, Colorado. We are sitting in the middle of a heat wave again today. Yesterday, temperatures in the upper 90s, not quite a record. Today, the record is 100. And with this ridge firmly planted over the top of Colorado, it's possible we could see that number. The ridge is showing signs of migrating eastward by Friday, which would allow for more moisture to stream in from the south. Right now, the monsoon moisture flow is really kind of wimpy. And so what is there is coming around the backside of high pressure and missing Colorado entirely. It's like a big circle right around the top of us. So we're sitting with the heat, the haze, the smoke from wildfires, at least 10 fires burning across our state. And wow, would we love to see a push of moisture from the south. And that could happen on Friday and Saturday. So fingers crossed, we need a major shift in the pattern. Severe weather threat is north and east of us today. Storms that will impact travel again north of us and east in the Midwest. We've got a little bit of cloud cover coming in. A high-based thunderstorm or two possible around Telluride, Salida, up towards Steamboat and Fort Collins. If we can get one of those to cross Denver and actually produce rain and not just wind and lightning, that would be amazing, considering the critical fire weather conditions across western Colorado, eastern Utah, right through the afternoon today and tomorrow. And that plume of wildfire smoke is dense, so air quality alerts, a health advisory out for the Northwest Plateau and Western Slope today. And some of that smoke is making its way eastward into Denver and along the Front Range. The heavier plume south will kind of ebb and flow, pockets of good air and then pockets of that dense smoke. Temperatures will start in the 60s this morning, warm to the upper 90s. Again, the record's 100, should come in just under that. Pretty dry today and tomorrow, but 30% chance of rain from storms in the forecast as we head into Saturday, and then isolated storms with a slightly cooler temperature trend for the second half of the weekend and first part of next week.
And weather-wise, one of the big things to watch is that coming up in 20 years from this week, yes, mark your calendars. You can't say you didn't get any warning, but we're going to have a total solar eclipse in Colorado for the first time in over 100 years. The path of totality right through the center and southern parts of the state of Colorado. It'll also move through Northern California, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, and central and northern parts of Florida. So how about that coming up in 2045? And while we're at it, since we're planning ahead for 20 years from now and 2 decades away, the total solar eclipse is going to actually pass through the south side of the Denver area, the south side of the Denver area, so Douglas County, really 470 on south if 470 exists in 20 years. It'll start at 10:37 a.m. and end at 10:42 a.m., so about a 5-minute and 19-second total eclipse for us. Near total eclipse in downtown Denver. Again, south side of the metro area will have the total eclipse, so you've got 20 years to make the drive down to Douglas County to get the path of totality for us. It'll be just south of Denver, and that totality again just south of town. Now, most of Colorado is going to have this, including places like Colorado Springs, Pueblo, Grand Junction, most of the mountain towns. Really, I-70, the rough cutoff, and you want to be safe about it south of Highway 50. That's where we're going to be talking about that path of totality coming up 20 years from this week. However, the last time that Colorado had a total solar eclipse back in 1918. So this is the first time coming up in 20 years. This will end up being the first time in 127 years that Colorado gets to experience a full solar eclipse, path of totality, coming up here in just 20 years. So 2 decades after an 120-year wait, probably not too bad.
20 years means you have plenty of time to prepare. Looking forward to that. Next up, we're taking you to Phoenix, Arizona, where Ginger Jeffries is tracking pop-up thunderstorms, the heat, of course, and wildfire smoke.
I'm meteorologist Ginger Jeffries with a look at the weather out west across Arizona where, wow, we are seeing our summer extremes. Yesterday, we still had that extreme heat warning that has now expired, but on cue, the monsoon started to roll on through. And yeah, we had some action last night in some of our areas around the region. And today, it's going to continue. In fact, we've got about 48 hours of very active weather moving through. Now, most of this moisture should be in the higher elevations. So I'm talking about high country, through the rim, also down around the White Mountains into southeast areas of Tucson. You can see we've got some rain showers popping up, and we even have an opportunity for Phoenix. Now, most of this is going to be later today into tomorrow morning, but obviously temperatures for much of the state reflecting the change that's rolling on through. So to Sedona finally dropping out of the triple digits today. We got 93 for you, 83 in Flagstaff, still seeing some very warm conditions at Lake Havasu, 111, 108 today in Yuma, 96 in Tucson, and overhead we are going to see about 108 degrees. In Tempe last night, one of our 12 News weather watchers sending me this photo. No rain, but some lightning strikes. Yeah, certainly this is going to be kind of the screenplay for us over the next couple days. Some big numbers now popping up on the monsoon meter when we get into 5s and 6s. That's not a question of whether we are getting storms. It's the severity and the timing. So numerous storms in the mountains, and because of all the action around us, we've got an isolated chance of some pop-up moisture today in the valley, and it's going to be increasing through tomorrow. Take a look, Futurecast data. Now, what this basically shows is the opportunity for some measurable rainfall. When those greens start to get a little darker, that darker banding indicates measurable rainfall. So not all of this is going to be rainfall, but I think it's a great forecast model because it just shows how widespread this activity is going to be. And it's definitely getting a little more action into Friday. And I think overnight into the morning hours, and then again after about 6 o'clock, that's when we've got our best opportunity for Phoenix to actually pick up some measurable rainfall. And then all this moisture should be staying in the higher elevations for Saturday. But clearly, we are going to be picking up some rainfall. Higher elevations could see up to an inch, and Phoenix is on the board to get some measurable rainfall. So let's really zero in on the metro and see where, when, and how much. Through about tonight at 6:30, you can see we've got one little tiny cell, and I think that's really going to be the screenplay until the morning hours. Then we start to see some more dynamic action, and it's this outflow that could kick up some dust for us, and then it does look like some measurable rainfall will be pushing through in the overnight hours. So how much? Well, blink and you might miss it. Doesn't look like our rainfall totals are over 1/100th of an inch of rain. Now, of course, if one of these cells gets overhead, we're really going to start to see that beef up. So I'm calling for up to maybe 1/10 of an inch when all is said and done over the next 48 hours. Today, variable clouds. Temperatures coming down. We're still above the normal range, but we're doing some work. You can see daytime highs won't be hitting the triple digits until after the noon hour. And then wow, those clouds are really going to start beefing up tonight. The other interesting element of our weather story is right here. The wind directions are all over the place. As a result, we're going to start to see some of the smoke, hazy skies, courtesy of the wildfires that we have burning just to the east and southeast of the metro area. So heads up about that. Temperature-wise, Flagstaff, for the next 7 days, you can see, yes, ample monsoon moisture moving on through. Heaviest action will be Friday and Saturday. Because of that, our daytime highs are coming way down for the valley, dropping to about 104 and 103 on Saturday.
Coming up after a quick break, we're taking you to Boise and Spokane, where our meteorologists are tracking wildfire smoke, cooler temperatures, and even some rain chances. Hey there, welcome back. So wildfire smoke is impacting portions of Idaho. Boise's Hector Mendoza has the details on where it will be the worst and if there is any chance of it clearing.
Hello, I'm Hector Mendoza out here at KTVB forecasting from Boise, Idaho. And the biggest thing we've seen the past couple of days is some area wildfire smoke that we've seen come from fires here near Tamarack that we've seen started by lightning, and there's a couple that are bringing a lot of this smoke. So this is a time lapse that we're looking at. So we're just going to play through it to see all that smoke that we've seen just kind of rise and come from that fire there out in Tamarack yesterday afternoon. That continued into the overnight hours and through this early morning, and then we've continued to see that sort of trickle into the Boise area, other spots including the Magic Valley and into Twin Falls, where we're going to continue to see some of these hazy conditions. Although the smoke is going to be much thicker in areas in Valley County, but still we might see a bit of those effects coming in through this afternoon as we look at our surface level forecast here, looking at our smoke and just fast forwarding through the rest of the day today. That continues. We'll see a bit of a break as we see some of those winds come in and start to increase, but then in through Saturday as we're anticipating that smoke to really continue and linger. Although it's not going to impact air quality as much here, but we are going to continue to see that many other spots are going to start to see that diminish into the next couple of days. And as you move further up north and to the east is where we're seeing some of those good categories drop down into the yellow or moderate category. So for many of those folks that are very sensitive to air particulates, be careful out there and try to limit your time outdoors if you're in places including Shoshone County, Kootenai County, and other areas as we head on over into Lemhi County. So again, not looking too bad here in the Treasure Valley and portions of the mountains. That could change a little bit and even out into the Magic Valley. But again, we could see some of those hazy skies for the next couple of days. The other things that we're paying attention to is going to be the heat that backs off a bit from what we saw early on this week in through today. And to wrap up the work week, we are seeing a chance for some spotty storm chances in some areas, not all, but some spots into today. So we'll talk about where exactly we can expect those through this afternoon into the next couple of afternoons. And then into the following week, we're going to see those temperatures climb back up again into the mid 90s. So this is the setup we're seeing for right now. Not as hot today. We are going to see some moisture make its way on through it. It looks to stick around and stay confined into eastern Idaho and through the Magic Valley. And then we're going to see some cooler conditions come along that'll amplify some of that moisture that comes in through the weekend. Could see some of those showers make their way through in portions of the mountains. But again, into the next couple of afternoons, that includes today and into tomorrow, we'll see areas there near Twin Falls, into southern Twin Falls County, all the way through Pocatello, Idaho Falls, and then through eastern Idaho is where we're expecting to see some isolated thunderstorms. Maybe some of that moisture backs off just a bit, so we're not seeing too much of that moisture come along, at least into this afternoon and into tomorrow afternoon. But as we head on into the weekend, it looks like we can see some of that make its way through into some of the mountain areas. So that's what we're expecting again as we continue on through Saturday and into Sunday. So this is looking out at McCall at some of those chances there as we're seeing it increase there as we head on into Sunday before seeing things dry out, and we're seeing another ridge of high pressure bringing some dry conditions into the following week. So as we look at the 7-day forecast, Sunday we'll see those temperatures drop down to the low to upper 70s in many spots into the mountains, and then climb back up into the upper 80s as we head on into Wednesday and Thursday of next week. Pretty similar conditions as we're going to see some of that smoke for today. Clear conditions, some clouds into Saturday and Sunday before seeing those temperatures back into those low 90s. So above average into next week. And then as we look at the 7-day forecast here in Boise, we're seeing those low 90s really not changing too much into Friday and Saturday, dropping to the upper 80s on Sunday. Then we'll see that sunshine return and we'll see drier conditions and a warming trend bring those temperatures back into the mid 90s there for Tuesday and Wednesday. And then morning temperatures pretty comfortable into the mid 60s, at least into the extended period.
Unfortunately, new wildfires have popped up in the interior Northwest, but some relief is in the forecast. Here's Thomas Patrick with the details from Spokane, Washington.
I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick in Spokane, Washington, and today we are finally seeing our temperatures get a little bit lower heading towards the weekend after having highs in the 90s since this past Sunday, just starting to cool off thanks to yesterday's cold front. The bad news, though, that cold front increased the winds and the fire danger yesterday, and 3 new wildfires did pop up and start and ignite as of yesterday afternoon. We are tracking those 3 wildfires as of this morning and the smoke that is trailing from that. It has hit the air quality a bit in some locations. So that's the primary focus over eastern Washington and North Idaho for today's forecast. But our high temperatures do return to normal as of today, 85 to match the average exactly. It was 4 days in a row with the highs in the 90s and above here locally. So when we look at air quality, we do have air quality alert alerts now issued today and through Friday morning, through the Friday noon hour here. There have been some areas getting hit with the air quality worse than others. But for the most part, a lot of the reports still in the moderate category as of this Thursday morning. Even in Spokane, the current AQI at 69, well in the middle of the moderate category, and most of the inland Northwest will continue to see that designation for air quality. There will be isolated locations directly near or downwind from wildfires that could drop a category down into the unhealthy for sensitive groups range. So those that have asthma might experience it a bit worse than others. So when we're looking at wildfires and the smoke trails, no better example than the image we had at sunset from last night. This would be the fire that is over Lincoln County as viewed from downtown Spokane, and look at that smoke trailing through northern Spokane County. If you are directly in the path of that wildfire smoke, you're noticing it a lot more significantly than even others just a mile or two outside of that. So that is the situation that we'll be monitoring for the day. In the meantime, the satellite view this morning actually just has some high-level cloud cover. This little area of white, just regular clouds in the upper atmosphere. It's this little bit of gray that you see underneath it is the wildfire smoke and haze. In this case, this is coming from the Bear Gulch fire, which is over the Olympics on the west side. Can't see too much smoke from the local fires as of this morning. So these are the three fires that ignited as of Wednesday afternoon. The Crescent Road fire to Spokane's west, the Sunset fire, which is near Athol, Idaho, and the Central Ferry fire in Whitman County. With the winds out of the southwest, the smoke would blow towards the north and east. So areas like Pullman and Colfax on the Palouse actually have the best chance to have lower air quality as a result of those active fires. So that's what we're watching and monitoring at a local level. And the smoke modeling does pick up and now accounts for these new wildfires as well. That plus the Bear Gulch fire continues to pour smoke in our direction in eastern Washington. So skies are likely going to stay hazy at minimum today, but not expecting any hugely significant air quality drops on a widespread or statewide scale, just localized drops due to the fires in the region. Meanwhile, we're keeping an eye on our next storm system. This will be a wetter storm system, likely to give the Spokane area a good chance of rain, which we will always take in the summer season. Hopefully that helps to quell some of that fire activity as well. Saturday mornings, by far our best chance for rain, and it will also result in some slightly cooler weather to start the weekend with highs in the 70s. But in the meantime today, hazy skies with high temperatures back to normal in the mid-80s.
Coming up after a quick break, we're headed to Seattle and Portland. You heard Thomas mention that storm system that's going to impact the interior Northwest. It's going to impact the PNW as well. Welcome back to Weather Out West on this Thursday. I'm Ashley Ruiz, and our friends in the Pacific Northwest, they are feeling some much needed relief from a little heat wave that was impacting the area earlier this week. So that means summer is pumping its brakes for a little while. Rich Marriott has the details from Seattle, Washington.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Rich Marriott, and the weather continues to cool down around western Washington. In fact, yesterday with that onshore wind kicking in, we saw our high temperatures drop back from the low to mid 90s the day before, and yesterday we were mostly in the mid to upper 70s. That cooling is going to continue today as we have a pretty good deck of marine clouds over western Washington. The only place we've seen any blue sky this morning has been up there near the Strait of Juan de Fuca up towards Port Angeles, and occasional sun break there. We should see some sun breaks elsewhere today, but mostly we're going to be looking at gray skies like this, looking out from our Columbia Tower cam and there in Tacoma. Just kind of a gray start to the day, but again, it's just a solid deck of marine clouds where you do have rain in the forecast, but we're not expecting it during the day today. We don't expect to see the rain move into Puget Sound itself until we get to probably about 8 to 9 o'clock tonight. Right around sunset, it should start moving in, and then it's going to be pretty wet for about the next 36 hours, unusually wet for this time of the year where it's really hard to wring any moisture out of the sky. First Alert 7-day forecast does show that. We're going to see that rain move in as we head towards tonight, and then it's going to stick around tomorrow and could be heavy at times, but we do dry out over the weekend and get back into a sunny and mild pattern as we head into next week. We have had some major problems with that Bear Gulch fire, and the fire weather forecast, fortunately for that, is really improving. We're going to be looking for things to start to get in much better shape today. We will, first of all, we'll see that late afternoon rain moving in there, probably around 3 or 4 o'clock as it moves into the Olympics. It should make it into the fire area around then. Temperatures today only in the 60s to the low 70s. Light winds, which also will help out firefighters, and minimum humidity's not that low. We're going to see them around the 75 to 90% level, but the fuels are still very dry, and we're really hoping that rain moving in later today and through tomorrow is going to wet some of those fuels down and really discourage the fire, give firefighters a chance to get more control of that fire. Take a look at our air quality. The smoke from that has really been affecting the air quality right near the fire, and a little bit of it drifting out today. Most places are going to have good air quality, but kind of in the lee of the fire, we are going to be looking for it to drop into the moderate range, but it just barely goes into the moderate range, so it's not too bad once you get away from the fire area, and that should be much better once that front starts to move in tonight on into tomorrow. You can see that on the satellite image, a pretty healthy looking front for this time of the year. Again, we don't normally get this strong of a system, but that's going to move on through. We'll get a couple days of rain, it looks like, and then back into a dry pattern, but not nearly as hot as what we saw last week. Take a look at our rainfall. You can see not much goes on through the morning hours, but then as we head towards the afternoon, it shows up out there along the coast. And then overnight tonight, we get a pretty good round of rain. So the commute tonight will be dry, but the commute tomorrow morning probably is going to be wet, maybe a little bit on the slippery side. And then through the day, and especially as we get into the early evening tomorrow night, we see those rain totals really move up into the half to an inch range, which is an amazing amount of rain for this time of the year. Taking a look, if you're considering some hiking today, well, be prepared. It's not going to be the best of conditions. We got fog at the passes. In fact, we're also seeing a little bit of fog up there around Paradise, and it is going to stay pretty much socked in through the day today. So don't expect to see very much sunshine if you are going hiking. Temperature is reasonably comfortable. We'll climb mostly into the low to mid 60s if you're going to be at the highway pass levels. So definitely take your rain gear with you if you're heading up today. And here in the lowlands, that cooling, as I said, continues. We'll be looking at mid 60s to near 70 degrees north of Seattle, and then low to mid 70s to south. And then tomorrow we actually get into even cooler temperatures, getting well below normal, with high temperatures mostly in the upper 60s into the low 70s. So not chilly, but definitely cooler than the 90s we saw earlier in the week. Overall for today, then, we're going to be looking for mostly cloudy skies. There'll be some sun breaks mixed in. Then that rain moves into Puget Sound as we head towards about 8 to 9 o'clock this evening. If you're out along the coastal areas, that could move in mid to late afternoon. So allow for that if you're headed out to the beaches. Highs today continue to cool, low to mid 70s, and then rainy tomorrow. It looks like we'll see some heavy rain, especially late afternoon and evening tomorrow as that front pushes on through here. It might be a little breezy as that moves through as well. High temperatures only, as we said, in the upper 60s to around 70 degrees. As we head towards Saturday, decreasing showers with some clearing. Partly sunny, only a couple leftover showers. Sunday, most places will be dry and in the mid 70s. And then first half of next week, partly sunny and highs in the mid to upper 70s.
Just like Seattle, Oregon is feeling a nice break from the extreme heat, and they're expecting much needed rain as well. Here's Rod Hill with the details from Portland.
Oh, it's going to be a nice day here in the Rose City on a Thursday. I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. We are still cooling down after our 3-day heat wave. 2 days back, we were 99. Yesterday, it was sunny and still pretty warm, 87. Today, closer to 80. We have cloudiness out there this morning, but that's going to be breaking up, and we should have at least a partly cloudy, really pleasant afternoon. Now, we have something out here in the Pacific. You can see the clouds lining up. There's only one actual cold front out of all of this, and it comes in Friday overnight, and models love it, pushing an absolute period of several hours of soaking steady rainfall. It's going to be messing with people that are out and about Friday evening. It's still going on Friday overnight, but by the time we wake up Saturday morning after sundown, or sunrise, pardon me, we ought to be dry. So growing confidence that our weekend here in Portland is going to be pretty nice. Here are some cameras. So we've had the push of cloudiness this morning, which has moved into the Willamette Valley. And Portland, as I mentioned, will get some afternoon sun, but folks at the beach, about the time you folks start to clear out, there's a second wave of clouds coming. So you may not get the sun today. This is Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City. It'll be in the 60s today. It's in the 50s out the door this morning. You get up above, a little bit higher in elevation, and it's just beautifully sunny. There's the view over the summit of Mount Hood this morning. Let's see what temperature is. It's been in the 40s this morning. It'll only be up to about 60 degrees up there this afternoon. Here are the clouds in Portland expected to break up as we get rolling through the day. And here's the way that looks on Futurecast. So this is midday, showing the clouds starting to break up, and then we get afternoon sun. Then here's this next wave of cloudiness coming in. That's why I think the coast may just stay cloudy all day. Now you're going to see a touch of rain. There it is, a touch of rain overnight tonight. Anything from just a trace to no more than 5/100ths of an inch of rain. And the kind of dry line that we track as forecasters in terms of pressure height contouring puts Portland right on that dry line. So more rain with everything I'm going to be talking about to the north of Portland, less to the south. But that's just a touch of rain overnight tonight. This is 2 a.m. Friday morning. Here's Friday. We wake up, it's 8 o'clock. Radar shows a reasonable chance of some rain in the area. The situation of tomorrow is the depth of the moisture coming in with the cloud cover is really thick. So it's going to be a really gray, thick overcast on Friday. And at any time, simply because of that, there could be either some light rain or some scattered showers around. It's tough for me to tell how much dry time versus wet we get tomorrow. It's easier for me to say we're not going to get much total rainfall like in a rain gauge. I think 5/100ths of an inch is certainly no more than a tenth. But so we'll see when we get into tomorrow how wet versus dry we are, but nothing stormy. Now here is 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Notice Futurecast still doesn't show much rain, certainly south of Portland. And now we're getting into the evening. Now that front is approaching. Now we're getting kind of the loading of the heavier rain hitting the coast. And then if you're out and about Friday evening down here, the rain chances just get better and better and better. Again, the front that will drive the heaviest rain comes in after midnight. But at some point during the evening, the rain picks up, and then we have that heavy rain band. And you see it that moves through. This is Saturday morning at 7. The rain's up into the Cascades, and then moving forward, we're mainly dry both on Saturday and Sunday. Now, we have an LPGA professional golf tournament in town this weekend, so all eyes are hoping for some decent weather. And outside of a little bit of rain around tomorrow, I think we're going to have it. These rain totals are mostly with that rain band that's going to be coming in Friday overnight. Maybe an inch at the coast. That's a big rain band, right? Half of an inch of rain in Portland. Here's our 7-day. 80 today, nice. Then we get into the clouds and the rain chances we talked about Friday. The big soak Friday night. And then there's a shower chance, yes, but mainly dry on Saturday, mainly dry on Sunday, partly sunny and in the 70s.
Coming up next, it's time to head to California, and later on, Scripps researchers are tapping into the sounds of the Pacific Ocean, how that data helps them understand things like whale migrations and even slowdowns in the global economy. We did not forget about our friends in California, and this time we're going to kick things off in Southern California, where San Diego's Vanessa Paz is tracking high surf and rip current conditions, as well as some cooler conditions headed into the weekend. Well, happy Thursday, aka Friday Eve from San Diego, California. I'm CBS 8 meteorologist Vanessa Paz. Here's what it looks like earlier this morning from our wonderful Hotel Del Coronado Skycam. It's a very popular place. So if you are headed to San Diego or you know anyone visiting San Diego, Coronado is certainly a must go to as far as marking the list for visits. All right, here are your weather headlines as we get your Thursday going. As we inch towards the end of the work week, clouds will continue to spill well into the valleys as well as the foothill communities. If you're headed towards the beaches over the next couple of days and you are inexperienced or visiting San Diego, I would maybe steer clear of hopping into the water. We are looking at pretty strong rip currents along with high surf. Sets will be anywhere between 3 to 5 feet, but we could see some isolated sets up to 6 feet at times, and that will be impacting our beaches all the way through a Friday. It is going to be windy and overall cooler as we head into the weekend. When we talk about those cooler conditions, we're talking about average highs anywhere between 1 to about 5 degrees or so. So here's what I have on tap for Thursday's highs versus where we should be for this time of the year. A lot of areas are going to be shy of our 30-year average. Forecasting highs this afternoon for downtown San Diego in the mid 70s, low 70s in Chula Vista, 80 degrees this afternoon for Vista, 85 in El Cajon, and and 90 degrees in Ramona. Meanwhile, spots like Borrego Springs are still going to be hovering above seasonal by just a few degrees or so. But we're no longer under an extreme heat warning that expired last night after it was extended for several days. All right, here is what we can look forward to later on tonight. You probably noticed it was somewhat mild waking up along the coastal areas. That's because of that thick marine layer that pushed on shore overnight. It acts like a blanket for that heat, kind of trapping in that warm air. So we'll likely experience that again later on tonight as those clouds return later on this evening. A lot cooler for the inland valleys thanks to those clearer conditions. We'll be in the low 60s in areas like Escondido, Poway, as well as Miramar. Shooting for a low of Ramona, and we'll drop down to the 60s for spots like Alpine as well as Julian later on tonight. All right, here is what's on tap for your Friday afternoon. Will be very nice. Highs will be in the upper 60s, mid to upper 70s for the inland valleys. The mountains will produce highs in the mid 80s and will shoot for the low hundreds for our desert communities. Here is what's going on aloft. So we're kind of in between two systems. That ridge of high pressure still continuing to usher in some monsoon and moisture for states just to our east over the Four Corners. Not really doing for much for us here in San Diego County, though. We will continue to see that ridge of high pressure weekend. We'll have this trough of low pressure that's brewing off the Gulf of Alaska right now. It will continue to shift a little more westward or eastward rather, and that will continue to usher in somewhat cooler temperatures for us here in San Diego. We're going to have onshore flow amplify over the next couple of days. That will increase those winds, especially for the mountains as well as the desert areas. That's where we could see isolated gusts anywhere between 40 to 50 miles per hour or so. All right, taking a look at your 7-day forecast along the coastal areas, we'll be in the mid to low 70s all the way through the start of next week. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, that's when we'll start to feel those temperatures slowly start to rise, especially for the inland valleys. We'll be in the low 80s. These temperatures are a lot cooler than where we should be for this time of the year. High 80s is where we should be. I mean, after all, we're still in summer. We'll be in close to 90 degrees by the time we hit next Wednesday and Thursday. For the mountain and desert areas, we'll finally get relief from that extreme heat, especially when we talk about the deserts. They were inching close to that 115, 120 mark over the past several days, and will now be shooting down to the low hundreds. That starts tomorrow, and that will last all the way through early next week, and then we'll start to feel that warm up come Wednesday and Thursday. We also have the return of potentially some monsoon and moisture looking ahead to the latter part of next week.
From San Diego to Sacramento, Monica Woods is tracking slightly warmer temperatures on Friday, also how this year's fire season compares to average.
I'm meteorologist Monica Woods looking at our northern and central California headlines, and that includes for the coast, morning fog, afternoon sunshine. For the valley, some warming, mostly sunny for the foothills, and in the Sierra we'll see less storms. I do want to focus for a moment here on the Gifford fire. You can see the towering cumulus cloud, that pyrocumulus developing during our Wednesday afternoon, reaching almost 12,000 feet in the atmosphere. This is burning in San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties along Highway 166, and it is actively burning on both sides of the highway. Mostly that growth has been on the south side. A couple of structures threatened. Most of this is going to be in the rural area, nonetheless putting off a lot of smoke, and it does remind us we are heading into that time of year when we're getting farther and farther from our last significant wetting rain. Fire season so far, these are statistics as of August 11th. Fires have burned about 5,300 fires so far this year. Acres, over 350,000 acres this year. That's going to fall pretty close to that 2024 average, and then also our 5-year average as well. Now, keep in mind, our Gifford fire has burned over 124,000 acres so far, but these statistics this year also include what happened in January in the Los Angeles area. Looking at the forecast highs for our Thursday, at least we're not in a stretch of extreme heat. We're going to stay pretty close to average for our Thursday. 60s along the coast, 90s inland, 80s for the foothills, and close to 80 up top for the Sierra. A little shift in our winds coming in on Thursday. We're still pulling in a bit of a nice onshore flow here. That's going to elevate at least the humidity. But as we head into our Thursday evening, into our Friday, that becomes more of a north wind. It is going to erode a lot of that coastal fog. Normally, north
north winds would elevate the fire danger, but since it's going to be a short-lived event and really not meeting the threshold for any red flag warnings, we're going to keep it below that threshold and at least monitor the situation, but nothing so far in terms of that higher fire danger. Meantime, temperatures 80s up top for this year, 80s and 90s down low for the foothills, traveling south into the Central Sierra, 85 for Yosemite, 90s still throughout much of the Central Valley. We'll be at 78 for Pinehurst with, again, a little less thunderstorm activity than what we've been seeing recently. Monterey Bay Peninsula along the Central Coast, highs are in the 60s as we travel southward. We get closer to where that fire is burning. San Luis Obispo 72 closer to the coast there. Atascadero 81, Coalinga 99. So we're still seeing those temperatures very toasty for inland areas, but no widespread 100s right now. 60s along the Bay Area coast. That includes Point Reyes at 71 degrees. Inland areas will warm into the 80s and lower 90s. Along the northwest coast, we've got highs in the 60s. Lots of fog along the California-Oregon border coastal communities there. Once we head inland, we are hitting highs in the upper 90s, low 100s for the northern Sacramento Valley. As we travel towards the capital region, highs are going to be closer to the low to mid 90s. Pretty typical for this time of year. Nothing too extreme at this point. 5-day regional forecast. Slight chance of some thunderstorms making a return to the Tahoe Basin by Saturday and Sunday. We'll continue to monitor that for that weekend forecast. Meantime, for the foothills, we'll keep it sunny. Highs are going to be in the 80s and low 90s for Thursday and Friday. A little cooler as we head towards the end of the weekend into early next week. A nice little cooling trend on tap for the end of the weekend. For the coast, we're going to see that north wind really bring up those temperatures. We'll be in the mid 70s, and again, less fog with those north winds, but it does make a return, indicating that cooler onshore flow will also impact our valley forecast. As you can see with our extended outlook, highs will warm into the mid to upper 90s on Friday, but then drop into the 80s by Sunday and Monday. Another warming trend on tap by the end of next week.
Coming up next, very quick break. Julie Martin has today's national forecast. She's tracking heat, severe thunderstorms, and much more. Strong to severe thunderstorms are possible in the northern plains, while heat impacts the south and southeast. Also, flash flooding is possible in portions of the mid-Atlantic. Here's Julie Martin with the national forecast.
Well, for your Thursday, we are looking for the possibility of some strong to severe storms in the northern plains. Also, extreme heat continuing in northern Florida, southern Georgia, and then we have the flash flooding possibility for you in the mid-Atlantic. Here's a look at those temperatures for today. Pretty comfortable around the Great Lakes. We've got the 80s from Grand Rapids back toward Minneapolis. We've got those 90s as we head into the mid-south and the deep south. 90 for you here in Atlanta, 90 in Charlotte. We'll still see those warm temperatures in the mid-Atlantic with those 90s in DC and Norfolk, but finally that nice cool down here in the Pacific Northwest. We are going to be dealing with much more comfortable temperatures. In red, that is the fire danger, the red flag warnings in the Great Basin, Four Corners region. Have to watch for any lightning strikes that could spark some more fires with those erratic winds. And then here in orange, we have the heat advisories. That goes for portions of northern Mississippi, Missouri, also Louisiana, and then, as I mentioned, South Georgia and northern and central Florida, where those feels like temperatures are going to be well into the triple digits. Here's a look at the severe threat for Thursday. We're at a level 2, so a slight threat here in the high plains. So just north of Minneapolis, right along the Canadian border into the Dakotas, that's where we could be dealing with some strong storms. The tropics, we're still keeping an eye on. This particular area has very little chance of development, but we do have Tropical Storm Erin that is still holding together, expected to approach the islands in general by the weekend. But the good news is the models tend to take it back out to sea and curve it off to the east. So we could still see some strong rip currents along the U.S. coast. However, at this point, does not look like any direct impacts. Here are those regional temperatures. Nice there in Seattle. We'll actually get a little rain coming in on Friday. Portland, you'll be in the 70s as we head into the weekend. Same goes for you there in Spokane, a big cool down. We've got the 90s 60s in Boise, and then really hot in Phoenix once again with those triple digits. San Diego looks beautiful. We've got the 70s and sunshine. And then in the Lone Star State, we're going to stay hot with those mid-90s all across the board. In Little Rock, excessively hot as well. You're going to be getting all the way up to 97 over the weekend. Hot and steamy in New Orleans, Tampa, and then Atlanta right about at average. Taking a look at the Midwest, St. Louis, you're still going to be quite warm. We are looking at some more comfortable air around the Great Lakes and still hot in the Northeast.
And when we come back, a recent study just released by the Scripps Institute of Oceanography has some important information about our seas. After the break, what the report said and the special equipment they used to gather the data. Researchers say what they are hearing is telling them more about things like whale migration patterns and even slowdowns in the global economy. San Diego meteorologist Sean Stiles has much more.
When it comes to climate change, we can see it with much larger storms. We can also feel it with heat waves that last longer. But now, in a paper just released from the Scripps Institute of Oceanography, scientists here say they can hear the effects of climate change in the ocean.
So there's what it would sound like if a container ship's going nearby, and that sound's going to propagate really far.
Kieran Lenson is a research and development engineer at Scripps Institute of Oceanography and collaborated on the paper.
So this was a 15-year study looking at climatic and economic factors, looking at soundscapes, sound across the ocean.
The ongoing research listens to natural and man-made sounds in the ocean.
We're able to see blue and fin whales when they come in the area, and then when big events like global recessions or a marine heat wave comes through for a few years, we can see how those populations move over time.
During the ocean heat wave of 2014, a significant number of fin and blue whales left the waters off Southern California.
Those levels decreased by about 50%, but levels at our more northern sites where it's colder water, the fin and blue whale sound levels went up.
Scripps designed and built the equipment.
So this is our hydrophone, and so we have a sensor up here, and these are constantly having data or recording sound, and it's coming down, getting amplified here, and then it gets saved in this. This is what we call our data logger.
More than a half dozen pieces of equipment are located in the Bight of Southern California, collecting data nonstop, which is retrieved every 6 to 12 months. And the hydrophones hear everything.
So this is a great example of noise pollution in the Santa Barbara Channel. And this is happening daily, multiple ships coming through.
Which is how Scripps could hear the slowdown in the economy.
So here in 2008, we hit the economic recession, and this red goes down pretty dramatically.
What the Scripps research does is establish a baseline for the future.
This shows the importance of that 15 years so that we can see these bigger changes.
With over 15 years of information collected from the oceans, the folks here at Scripps will continue to put their equipment in the ocean to listen to the data that it has to offer up. Sean Stiles, Earth 8.
Thanks, Sean. It's Thursday, which means we have a drought monitor update. And with this week's updates, there are some significant shifts in drought conditions. So moderate to heavy rain over the Carolinas on to Florida help drought conditions, and then some improvements for portions of the northern Rockies and plains. Rain helped ease drought conditions over portions of Montana. It wasn't major, but it's something, and northern Idaho included. Farther south, however, not so much. Weak monsoonal rain plus hotter than normal temperatures have led to some worsening drought conditions. And the drought monitor reports, it says in the past 5 weeks, rangelands and Poor or very poor conditions jumped from 22% to 44% in Washington and 10 to 34% in Idaho. Beneficial rain is expected to fall over the PNW over the next week. Now, the Climate Prediction Center is showing the seasonal drought outlook through October. Still not much has changed. This is July's update, so we'll have a new one coming up. But I also wanted to show you the rain expected over the next 7 days. The PNW will get some very meaningful rain. You heard Rod Hill and Rich Marriott mention this, especially west of the Cascades. So this should at least help a little bit, and it should combat some of the wildfire risk. In the desert Southwest, a little bit of rain, which is always a welcome sight with that monsoonal moisture. Now, toward the end of the month, it is looking maybe close to below normal precipitation, whereas basically the desert Southwest all the way up toward Denver and Colorado and just portions of the Intermountain West could get above normal rain conditions. So that is also some good news. And of course, we'll always have the latest every Thursday for you unless there are some significant changes. We'll see how some of that rain, the Pacific Northwest, helps next week. That does us for today on Weather Out West. I'm meteorologist Ashley Ruiz. We thank you so much for being with us today. Be sure to join us tomorrow, Friday, for our next Weather Out West.